Hi there. By this time I think that's I think it's my 8th vlog here on YouTube. And I'm sitting here as usual and sitting here instead of being outside with beautiful weather out there, and but that's the way it is right now. I think that shouldn't be again today's topic. Although the whole thing is very sad and it's very serious, but I think once in a while I should talk about something else, something that isn't that sad or like this. So I decided for today to talk about some things, talk about the things from which I get kind of energy, some kind of hope when I'm not in a good mood or something. And I'm not talk about some stars or some hobbies or something. I want to talk about things which helps me get up again, get out of my hole, and which don't let lose me hope. And well, I mentioned it a few times. I'm a more or less great movie fan. I have a huge collection of all kind of movies, and of course I have some favorites, and I think it's no big surprise that most of the films I like the best are not the usual main Hollywood blockbusters with action, with guns or stuff like that. My favorite movies are all kind of very deep, very somehow they are cruel, they are very sophisticated somehow. Those are the kind of movies I can dive in and somehow I can suck some energy out of it. Oh boy. Well, there are some movies I want to talk about, but somehow it's a thin red line, because mainly those movies emphasize my bad feelings. I watch them when I'm in a bad mood, and those movies are sad and they emphasize my desperation, my bad feelings, my confusion. But it's kind of funny that they help me as well. It's very paradox, but somehow enough of this talking. The first movie I want to introduce is the movie Stay. I don't know if you know the movie Stay. It's a film. I think it came to cinema at 2005. It's a very I think unknown film, very off mainstream. Starring Ewan McGregor. He's the type of guy who played in the Star Wars movies, in the newest new one Star Wars movies, and also I think he played in Trainspotting. It's a Scottish film. I don't know if you know that one. It's kind of a drug movie, but also very good, I think. Starring Ewan McGregor, like I said, starring Ryan Gosling. I never knew this dude before this movie, but he's also a really good actor, I think. And starring Naomi Watts. I also draw a picture of her in my speed paintings videos. And so a short summary about the movie. The film is mainly about a guy who had an accident, woke up and he isn't sure if he's still alive or he's already dead, and he walks around and he talks with people and somehow tries to figure out what had happened. Well, it's difficult because it's hard to not to spoil, not to tell the end. But I think it's a great movie with great emotions, great. The main character of the movie is very sad. It's very depressive, and maybe that's why I like this film so much. It has a beautiful score, and I think it's worth watching it. So this is my first film tip, movie tip, and yeah. For me as a film freak, I don't know. Well, maybe you think movies are not my thing. I don't like movies very much, but I think it's very worth seeing it. Well, stay, like I said, and I think the 3 other movies I want to talk about a little are more famous. Like the next movie called Taxi Driver. It's a very old film. I think it's came into the cinema 1970, 1976. I'm not quite sure. Starring Robert De Niro, starring well, shit. Just a moment, please. Judy Foster and Harvey Keitel. I think you might probably know them, or maybe not. So I think the movie is also about a loner, played by Robert De Niro, which is a taxi driver in this movie, and that's why the title. And he has his own view and is in search for the sense of life. He wants to move something. He doesn't want to be unimportant. And well, this movie is relatively old, but it's very good. I think it's a classic one, and also worth to be looked at, I think. So, time is running out. I only got 2 more minutes. The 2 last videos I wanted to talk about. Rocky. Rocky, I think you all know Rocky. Rocky Balboa, starring Sylvester Stallone, Talia Shire, and I think the first one, Rocky 1 and Rocky 2, are very good. It's also the same way. Rocky is a loner. He thinks he's unimportant. He doesn't have much respect for himself, and fights his way up. He does everything. He's ready to lose everything, and he also feels very alone, I think. And yeah. And the last film I shortly want to introduce is Vanilla Sky, starring Tom Cruise, starring Cameron Diaz and Penelope Cruz. It's kind of mainstream, but somehow although it's one of my favorites, because the story is very good, I think, and the way it's shot, the way it's meant, and very good. So, time is running out. So much for now. Next time I'll talk about I don't know, probably not about movies. Maybe I talk about the usual stuff. So, see ya.